Hello and welcome to Forever Sports, and a very interesting article has dropped this week which is once again sort of demonstrating how Jacques Nienaber might be one of the most underrated coaches in World Rugby. And after having sort of lived in Rassie Erasmus' shadow, we finally start to sort of see what he was all about towards the end of his tenure as Springbok head coach. And a very interesting interview has come out from on Planet Rugby, where Josh van der Flier basically opened up about what has made him so successful at Leinster so far in terms of the way that he's really helped change the squad, and just a bit of an insight as to maybe sort of what Jacques Nienaber does and maybe what South African coaches in general seem to do, which is quite different to maybe what your Northern Hemisphere, apparently even New Zealand coaches have done as well. And it's quite interesting to sort of get that insight to understand maybe where the sort of South African teams have been successful, the Springbok team itself has been successful, and why maybe other teams need to sort of look at exactly what they're doing right and try and sort of replicate that as well. Before we do that, please do smash a like on the video. Please do subscribe to the channel as well. So it's an article, interview done by James Weil, who writes for Planet Rugby, and he speaks about the fact basically Jacques Nienaber's real USP, unique selling point, basically is a thing. And he said as follows. He said, let's get into it, shall we? He's basically said, and the main thing is he's obviously worked with some of the best players in the world, and as a double World Cup winner, what he teaches works. Now, first of all, that reflects on his caliber, and yes, when he came in, everybody talked about the fact he's a bit of a defense guru, but a lot of people basically attribute the majority of the success for the Springboks to Rassie Erasmus. And, he was very much sort of never really given, I think, the credit that he fully deserved for sort of the role he played in the success. And this is why sort of his tenure at Leinster has been quite interesting, because he's no longer got a Rassie Erasmus around there. Now, yes, Leo Cullen and his coach staff are really good, but the big thing was that Jacques Nienaber was going to have to come in and sort out the defense, and he's very much doing that. And Josh van der Flier said the following about him. He said, I don't know how to articulate it exactly, but certainly I've had coaches from England, from Wales, and obviously from Ireland. He says you get a similar kind of thinking and approach to the game between New Zealand, Irish, and English coaches, for sure. There may be slightly different certain things they focus on, but Jacques has a different approach, one that starts with the group mentality and teamship above all else. He's got a lot of insights into how he's managed to get the best out of the players who have played for him. He's obviously worked with some of the best players in the world, and as a double World Cup winner, what he teaches works. This is a very interesting part, because Jacques Nienaber never played at the highest level. He was never a Springbok. He was never a provincial player in the likes of that. I don't even think he played for his team's first team. He's been quite upfront about the fact that he never had the playing credentials that Rassie Erasmus has, who captained the Springboks. But this is an interesting point, and it's more sort of speaks to Jacques Nienaber, the person, rather than just the coach, and how that plays into it. So he says, from a non-technical point of view, he's a very good motivator. He's great at getting you in the right frame of mind, and really importantly, he expects you to work as a teammate to others, something key within the Springboks, as we saw in 2023. He talks about how you should behave as a teammate. He said, with long campaigns like we're in at any time, there's always 23 lads who are delighted to be playing, but then you have another 25 lads or so who are disappointed to be left out. Jacques is really good at making sure the mindset of the whole group is focused and as one. He's clear about what he expects of players who aren't selected, because it happens to everyone at some stage that they're in that position. And then finally, he says, from a technical point of view, he adds a huge amount in terms of individual things in defense and tackling, but his real USP is within the team environment. He adds so much in terms of the attitude people should have, and that's motivating for the whole group. Again, we're talking about Jacques Nienaber, the person, and I think this is what came across really, really well in Chasing the Sun, is that, he was more than just somebody who worked and tried to become a defense coach. The big thing about the box is being able to work with individuals and make them a collective. And I think the big selling point for Jacques is the fact that he is an incredibly genuine person. What you see is what you get type of person, and he's very upfront, and he's very personable. And I think that's a big thing when it comes to coaches, that people are willing to play for him. And he really does work on the mentality. And the reason that he becomes a defense coach, because defense is all about unity. It's all about working together to achieve a common goal. You know, on the attack, for example, you will have to rely on individual brilliance at times. You will have to rely on somebody being quicker than their opponent, somebody being, stronger than their opponent, somebody be able to sort of make a split-second decision, and sometimes you have to do it your own. And there will always be individual brilliance when it comes to attack. Defense is far more team-oriented. You know, it's all about how, you know, your defense is only as good as your weakest link, which is not quite the same as your attack. So it's funny how that sort of just is such a match made in heaven in terms of someone who believes in creating a culture of relying on other people and being somebody worth relying on. And I think that's a very interesting way of taking it. You know, it's not about making sure that the teams, you know, that you're the best player, you're the best teammate. And it sounds silly, but it really is a big, important difference. You know, how am I benefiting the person next to me? How am I helping them succeed? How are they helping me succeed? And if you've got 23 people doing that, that together as a team is exactly what you want and what you need to succeed. And it is working. You know, these are some of the stats. Leinster have got the fewest points conceded by well over 50 points. You know, they've not necessarily scored the most tries and scored the most points, but they've conceded the fewest. And by quite a while, I think about 5 is the next best, and that's the difference at the moment. You know, Leinster are a side that maybe aren't scoring as much as they could have and would have a couple of years ago, but they're not conceding points. And that, for example, is a huge part of it. Because, I mean, for example, you got to look back at La Rochelle and the fact that they came back twice against Leinster in those sort of Heineken Cup finals or Champions Cup finals. And that was defense. You know, they rushed to a lead, but then they didn't have the defensive system, the defensive, none of it, the know-how, even the attitude to be able to protect that lead. And now they seem to have gotten that part right. And that, I think, is what's going to make Leinster a title-winning team once again. You know, is the fact that they've got a side and a system which works defensively, and they're willing to just not concede points. And because I think they're a side that will always score points. You know, they're always going to score tries. I don't think they've been told triless for many years in a game. You know, they just do. They score tries. That's what they do, and they know how to do it very, very well. But you can't score 6, concede 5, and expect to win trophies. If you're scoring 3 and conceding none, however, that's when you win trophies. And that's kind of, I think, the shift that Leinster have taken, particularly this season, but also to a certain degree last season, is trying to become much harder to beat. You know, and I think that's something, for example, like in Italy as a nation, have maybe struggled with, is that they can score points, but they concede so easily that they're a very easy side to beat. And that doesn't mean they won't win the odd game here and there, but it takes a once in a blue moon performance for that to happen. Whereas Leinster are consistently churning out these defensive masterclasses where they don't concede a lot of points, where they're obviously still scoring and they're getting results. And I think if you look at that table and you look at the results that Leinster have had throughout the season, there's a marked difference to the type of team they've become. And some people are saying that maybe, it's not a good thing in terms of the fact that they're not maybe as attacking as they used to be, or maybe not as strong with their attack. But I think it's a very, very worthy sacrifice to maybe reduce your attacking output to really, really, shore up your defense. I think he's a phenomenal coach, and I think that I'm glad that he's gone to a non-Springbok environment where people are now starting to understand that him on himself brings incredible value. You know, he could be a head coach of any of the 4 franchises down here, and I think that he would be very successful. You know, I think the Sharks would love somebody like him to come in. I mean, the Lions would only dream of that kind of appointment. I don't think we'll necessarily see. I think if he ever comes back to South Africa, he will go back to the Bok route. But I'll be very interested to see what his career does hold, because having won 2 World Cups, you don't really get much better than that. He's now at Leinster, but again, as an assistant coach. And but he's 52 years old. He's got another good 10 or more years, hopefully, in the industry. And I'd really like to see what he could do as a head coach, because I think that he's got all the tools. And I think you've given the right sort of support staff and the right sort of team, and I think he can be very successful with lots of different places. Would love to get him back in South Africa, but just really good to see he's gone over to Ireland. He's getting the appreciation, and the rugby world is starting to really wake up to the fact that we've got a phenomenal coach in Jacques Nienaber, and he wasn't just Rassie's mate who just supports Rassie. And he in himself is he's a world-class coach. What do you think? And do you think that the changes he's made at Leinster will make the ultimate difference, and will they get silverware? Let me know down in the comments below. Smash a like on the video, subscribe to the channel as well. Thank you very much for watching. My name is Steve. I'll chat to you soon.